Hello, welcome to the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm Steve Lance. The Senate today voting to repeal authorizations for the use of military force against Iraq. This is a significant moment as Congress tries to reassert authority in military intervention abroad.
Every year we keep these AUMFs on the books is another chance for a future administration to abuse them. War powers belong in the hands of Congress. And so we have an obligation to prevent future presidents from exploiting these AUMFs to bumble us into a new Middle East conflict.
Authorization for use of military force gave the U.S. president broad powers to conduct military operations without the approval from Congress. Repealing the 1991 and 2002 authorizations for use of force in Iraq marks a formal conclusion to the conflicts. It's also a symbolic reassertion of Congress's ability to declare war. Some Republicans, including Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, oppose repealing the war authorizations. They argue the authorizations give the White House flexibility to respond to threats around the world at a dangerous time. The bill now goes to the House for a vote, and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy has signaled support for it. Meanwhile, the White House also saying it supports the measure. And TickTock is taking more heat today. The platform now facing a lawsuit from the state of Arkansas over its effect on mental health. This comes as lawmakers on Capitol Hill are weighing how to deal with the app, some pushing for an outright ban. Here's NTD's Melina Wisecup with more from Capitol Hill.
TickTock has emerged as a dicey topic for lawmakers since TickTock CEO came and testified before the House committee last week. Lawmakers have been pressed over and over again about how far they're willing to go when exercising oversight on the platform. There are a number of TickTock-related bills floating around both the House and the Senate, some even calling for an outright ban, such as what we see from Senator Josh Hawley and Congressman Ken Buck.
TickTock wasn't designed to make our lives better. TickTock is designed to addict and then to be used as a gateway into our personal lives.
But it's looking like an outright ban on TickTock will struggle to get enough support. And we can look to the Senate for an example. Senator Josh Hawley aimed to bring his TickTock ban bill to the floor for a vote, but it was opposed by another Republican, Senator Rand Paul, who argues government overreach, saying that it infringes on Americans' First Amendment rights. Earlier, I spoke to Democrat Senator Joe Manchin. He says he does support a TickTock ban, but does not support a bill that singles out TickTock alone. Watch.
Well, I'm all for banning TickTock. Yeah, what they've done in my state too, to game changers.
Do you support Senator Hawley's ban that he's proposed?
No, I'm the one that makes all the sense in the world is a bipartisan one.
Now, the majority of lawmakers that we've spoken to are eager to do something to address the national security concerns posed by TickTock and other privacy concerns that they have, but not everyone is on board with an outright ban.
And you can't just ban one company, even though TickTock is a major problem. You can't just ban a company. You need to have a comprehensive privacy law. You ban TickTock next week, there will be TickTock 2 the week after.
This as Arkansas has just filed a lawsuit against TickTock over its negative impacts on mental health.
Videos of alcohol use, drug use, and sexual content are pervasive on the app, available to anyone who claims to be 13 years or older.
And lawmakers here on Capitol Hill have shared this concern about the social influence of TickTock as well as other social media platforms. They say they're taking this into consideration as they craft their legislative approach.
The numbers are staggering. 1 in 3 teenage girls in America last year contemplated suicide. To take this TickTock investigation and begin to discuss how we put a privacy bill of rights on the books.
Now, there is growing support behind a bipartisan bill that aims to counter the threat posed by tech platforms owned by foreign adversaries. And this is a more broad bill that has already been endorsed by the White House. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
China threatening retaliation if House Speaker Kevin McCarthy meets with Taiwan's president next week. How the White House responds as President Biden holds the second summit for democracy. NTD's Iris Tao has more from the White House.
We're at an inflection point in history here.
At the administration's second summit for democracy, President Biden offering an optimistic outlook on democracy around the world.
Democracies of the world are getting stronger, not weaker. Autocracies of the world are getting weaker, not stronger.
But the hopeful message comes as China unleashes a new wave of threats against the U.S. And China on Wednesday threatened to, quote, resolutely fight back if U.S. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy follows through with a planned meeting with Taiwanese President Tsai Ing-wen, who's making a stop in the U.S. during an upcoming international trip. The White House on Wednesday dismissing Beijing's threats, saying there's no need for China to react.
This transit is consistent with our long-standing, unofficial relationship with Taiwan, and it is consistent with the United States' one China policy. There is no reason, none, for the Chinese to overreact here.
Interactions between the U.S. and Taiwan have increasingly drawn ire from China, which claims the democratically ruled island as its own. After then House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan last year, Beijing retaliated by sending fighter jets toward the island and cutting off military lines of communication with the U.S. Meanwhile, the White House maintains
People's Republic of China should not use this transit as a pretext to step up any aggressive activity around the Taiwan Strait.
The current House Speaker has not announced any plans to visit Taiwan, but he did tell NTD last month.
I don't think China can tell me where I can go at any time, at any place.
And President Tsai said she would defend democracy and not bow to China's pressure. She's tentatively set to meet with McCarthy and other members of Congress in Los Angeles next week. Reporting from the White House, Iris Tao, NTD News.
Reports are saying that the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C. declined to prosecute 2/3 of all cases last year. A House committee today holding a hearing grilling local D.C. officials on public safety.
The U.S. Attorney for D.C. reportedly declined to prosecute 2/3 of all cases in 2022. It points out that the declination rate went from 31% in fiscal year 2016 during an Obama appointee to 48% in fiscal year 2020 during a Trump appointee to now 67% in fiscal year 2022 during a Biden appointee. This comes at a time when congressional lawmakers are scrutinizing public safety in D.C. Recently, a bipartisan effort from Congress and President Biden stopped a bill by the D.C. Council which would have been softer on crime. On Wednesday, the House Oversight Committee held its first hearing investigating public safety measures in D.C. D.C.'s police union chairman said the number of cases being dismissed is frustrating for officers.
They're getting probable cause for warrants, they're arresting them, and then when we bring those folks down to the U.S. Attorney's Office, those cases are getting what we call no-papered, which means they're getting dismissed at intake.
Most Republicans on Wednesday tried to get the D.C. Council chairman to admit that there's a crime crisis, which he repeatedly denied.
Arson is up 400%. Car theft is up over 100%. How many cars have been stolen so far this year?
In my opening
How many
statement,
cars have been stolen so far this year in D.C.?
I don't have the exact number.
Right. You know what? It's over 1,300 vehicles have been stolen in Washington, D.C. so far
A lot
this
of that
year.
has to do with TickTock, you know, and that's a challenge around the
so
country.
you want to blame TickTock for the crime. Okay,
For the
that's
Hyundai-
fine.
The union chairman said they needed more officers to handle the rise in crime.
We don't have enough detectives to investigate these cases, and then when we are, the criminal justice system is failing us.
Meanwhile, most Democrats at Wednesday's hearing focused on advocating for D.C. statehood.
It is time for Congress to pass the D.C. statehood bill.
A D.C. City Council member argued that D.C. not being a state is partly to blame for the 64% of cases that aren't being prosecuted.
We have no ability to hold the U.S. Attorney accountable. When we've even invited the U.S. Attorney into hearings to talk about public safety, they decline to come. So on the front end of that, we see a concern with the U.S. Attorney's Office that we have no accountability and no oversight.
The House Oversight Committee is inviting D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser for its next hearing on public safety. She'll be the lone witness at that hearing. Reporting by Arian Pazdar, NTD News.
Russia says it will no longer notify the United States about its nuclear weapon activities. A senior Pentagon official said in a response, the U.S. is suspending similar notifications. The notifications of test missile launches are meant to ensure that the two countries don't misinterpret the other's moves. But Russian President Vladimir Putin suspended Russia's participation in the new START treaty in February. This is the only bilateral agreement left between the world's two largest nuclear powers. The U.S. on Tuesday also stopping sharing some data on its nuclear forces. The treaty also caps the number of strategic nuclear warheads that both countries can deploy. Russia has said it will voluntarily stick to the limits. Russia's defense ministry said today that it has begun exercises with its intercontinental ballistic missile system. Thank you for watching the Capitol Report. If you want to see our full broadcast, check us out at epochtv.com.